and that will mean about 6 small towns. We'll be building a few other sugar estates, maybe 4 or 5 additional sugar estates. We hope to build about 7 fertilizer factories in the Western Oromia region. And that will mean a sizable town needs to be built there. So we need to beef up our capacity to quickly build sizable factory towns. And we've been building our capacity to do so. And we have already started implementation in 1 or 2 places. So we generally have done quite a lot of preparation to beef up our capacity. But here again, there are gaps. And our hope is that we will continue to fill the gaps as we go along. So on balance, I think the preparation for the implementation of our 5-year plan is going quite well.
Thank you, sir. I'm from AfroFM. My question is, currently there are many Ethiopians residing in Libya and their situation is reported to be not so good. So what is being done by the Ethiopian government to guarantee their safety? And in connection to that, what's your overall view on the current situation in North Africa? And what role can Ethiopia play in stabilizing it? Thank you, Your Excellency.
Taking you back to the unrest we see in Middle East and North African countries, generally, did the party leadership, the ruling party leadership or the government leadership discuss this issue, trying to understand what caused this unrest, what caused these popular revolts? Some of the opposition parties has been reacting to this change, and one of the people I talked to was your former colleague, Ato Siyabra. He's saying that the issues that caused these popular revolts, such as a lack of freedom, one strong party, high unemployment rate, one person staying in power for too long, is exhibited exactly here in Ethiopia, and such popular revolts is only a question of time, and the government is better prepared for it. He imagines that, given the knowledge he has about the party, he imagines that you are currently very worried about it, but only doing the wrong calculations, such as preparing for police, security forces. Is that true from what is really happening in the government?
With regards to the disturbances in North Africa and East Africa, honestly speaking, we've not discussed it in the party or the government. Now, that doesn't mean I have not been following the news. I generally tend to follow the news, whether it is that of tsunami or revolutions or whatever. But as a government, we've not discussed this issue because we don't consider it as an immediate and relevant issue. We know where the threat comes from, and the threat to the system comes from precisely from the failure of this government to deliver on its promises that it made last year. It got the overwhelming endorsement of the people of this country last year on the basis of a very clearly set contract. That contract is enshrined in the growth and transformation plan of this government. So what worries us is finance for the implementation of that project. What we discuss day in, day out is how we get the finances. What worries us is implementation capacity. What worries us is inflation and land grab and so on and so forth. These are the plans. These are the issues that are going to determine stability and progress in Ethiopia. And therefore, we meet on a daily basis to discuss these issues, both within the party and within the government. We're not worried that there will be a North Africa type revolution in Ethiopia. It's simply not possible. The circumstances for it do not exist. That doesn't mean some people will not try. We know for sure that, for example, the Eritrean government has given instructions to its messenger boys to try. The Eritrean government has decided to turn Addis into Baghdad. That is their latest slogan. That is what that's the instruction they gave their messenger boys, where they sent them with bombs and explosives at hand to try and create havoc prior to the AU summit here. Now they are supplementing that instruction with instructions to try and create disturbances, popular uprising, and so on and so forth. So we know they are trying to do that. We are also aware that some parties who are legally operating in Ethiopia are praying that this happens, and maybe playing a few games to try to accelerate such an event. So we are watching these issues carefully. These are police issues. These are security issues. These are not basic political issues. So we do not feel that we need to discuss them as a government or as a party. The political changes in North Africa are very interesting. As I said, I don't think any one of these events has come to a final conclusion. Libya is obviously in turmoil, and nobody knows how it's going to end. Tunisia and Egypt have completed the first phase of the revolution peacefully. But so far, one part of the political establishment, has displaced the other part of the political establishment. That, as you know, is not the definition of a revolution. And these things have not yet come to a halt. These are ongoing processes. And nobody can pretend to know where this is going to end. But on balance of all the Middle Eastern countries and North African countries, Tunisia and Egypt are the ones that have relatively better circumstances for the establishment of a multi-party pluralist system. I don't think there is any basis for it in Libya, none whatsoever. I don't think there is any basis for it in Saudi Arabia, for example. But there is some basis for it in Tunisia, perhaps better than in Egypt, and in Egypt, perhaps better than in many other North African countries. The new regimes will have to resolve complex issues quickly, complex economic, structural problems quickly. None of these governments are likely to have the magic wand to do it. And so the new governments will have to find some way of keeping the population satisfied without necessarily addressing the structural problems. That is a very tricky question. One way that governments have traditionally used is displace the attention of the population to the outside world. That's, for example, what the Argentine military dictatorship did before it started the war in the Falkland Islands, to try to divert attention. There are many possibilities for diverting attention of the population of Egypt, for example. The Palestinian issue is one. The Nile issue is another one. So to what extent governments that find it difficult to address the structural issues will try to divert attention to external enemies, real or imagined, is going to be an interesting issue to study carefully. One thing is very clear, and it's very important that Ethiopians understand that the destabilization of Egypt can never be in our interest. It's the worst possible scenario. This, despite the fact that Egypt has used all means at its disposal to stop us from developing our Nile resources. In spite of all of that, we are much better off with a stable and unfriendly Egypt than an unstable Egypt. Much better off than. And therefore people need to be very careful about what they wish, because their wish may come true. With regards to Ethiopians in Libya, we are aware that there are several hundred Ethiopians in Libya. We do not know how many. They are not properly registered. We do not, as you know, have an embassy in Libya. So it's been difficult for us to follow the developments in Libya and to assist our citizens there. We have been working through and with the support of the Sudanese government. Our embassy in Khartoum also covers Libya. The Sudanese have a huge diaspora in Libya, and they have a big embassy there. So we've been working with them through the Sudanese to help Ethiopians. We've now contacted several hundred Ethiopians, registered them, prepared proper identity cards for them in Tripoli and some in Benghazi. We are organizing, with the support of the Sudanese, boats and ships to try to transport them, primarily from Tripoli, but also from Benghazi, those who want to leave. Many of those who are in Benghazi do not want to leave Benghazi, but many of those who are in Tripoli want to leave. We are also working with UN agencies to see if we can get clearance to use chartered flights to try and transport Ethiopians. It's a very risky thing because of the alleged transport of mercenaries from sub-Saharan Africa to Libya. Flights from Africa to Libya have been extremely risky, and so it's not been possible for us to see if we can use Ethiopian Airlines to evacuate Ethiopians from Libya, and it's been very risky for sub-Saharan African refugees to go from the places where they are hiding to the airport. So because of these difficulties, we've been working together with UN agencies to see if we can, through their support, get the possibility of bringing our citizens out using our airlines. But that has not yet been settled. I hope over the next 3 or 4 days there will be some Ethiopians evacuated by sea. Fortunately, quite a few hardy Ethiopians have walked all the way from Libya to Sudan and to Ethiopia. I'm sure there will be some more who walk across the Sahara to escape the danger.
Well, I'd like to ask you about your latest economic forecasts, as well as the amount of foreign exchange you have at your disposal as compared to last year. Thank you.
First, there was this report released a bit earlier that was alleging that there were Ethiopian mercenaries with Ethiopian passports in Libya. Some of the wire sources were reporting that. What is your government's response to that? Are there any, or have you come across any source of information?
Now, I'm sure everyone knows that we have had our differences with the authorities in Libya. And we have had them in public, we have had them in private. So there is no possibility whatsoever that we could tolerate any Ethiopian fighting on the side of the current government in Libya. That would be a criminal act because mercenary activities is outlawed not only by Ethiopian law but also by African Union law. That would be the most despicable crime one can think of that any Ethiopian could commit. So I don't see how an Ethiopian would be trusted by the regime enough to be a mercenary. It is possible that some individuals who have military skills, perhaps former regime soldiers with contacts with the Libyan authorities from those days, it's conceivable that there may be some such individuals, but I have no way of knowing that this is the case. And I believe that if we have to talk about mercenaries, we have to talk about a significant number of armed people from some other countries, including from Eritrea, who may be in Libya. So I don't think there are Ethiopian mercenaries there. If there are, we would want to know who they are, because we want to get hold of them. These are despicable criminals, if there are any such, and we want to get hold of them. Now,
excuse me. You might have not seen the YouTube. The opposition in Libya has released since the incident, but there are some people that they capture as mercenaries, and they display in the YouTube footage Ethiopian passports, and they're quite visible in their money.
Do they display the Ethiopians or their passports?
Their passports. It's a passport. The individuals do not seem to be Ethiopians, but the passport they display on the footage is clearly Ethiopian.
Well, I have not seen those passports. I cannot dismiss them as fraudulent without investigation. That is why I said we would want to get hold of this information. If there has been, printing of forged passports, it is not inconceivable that some people will try to forge our passports. If there has been such forgery, we would want to know because we want to stop it. If there have been any Ethiopian mercenaries involved, we would want to know. Those of you who are internet savvy and may have contacts, please try and get us the particulars so that we could do what is necessary to stop criminal activities. It is likely to be a criminal activity one way or the other. It's either forgery or it's Ethiopians involved in mercenary activities. In both instances, it's criminal, and we would want to know, and we would want to stop it. I can't give specific figures on the foreign exchange reserve side, but it's well above target. And as I said, we have not sterilized it, and we plan to sterilize it as quickly as possible. Hopefully we'll do some of the sterilization before the end of the budget year. And the fact that we will be importing quite a lot of sugar, edible oil, and so on, will help us, among other things, in sterilizing the foreign exchange build-up beyond our target. As you know, our forecasts are based on two scenarios, the high-case scenario and the base-case scenario. I don't expect us to achieve the high-case scenario this current budget year. Will probably around the base-case one, which is around 11%.